Hello watch enthusiasts. Today I'd like to talk about some watches at a fairly reasonable price, which have a very old-fashioned air to them. Now these are sports watches. These are watches which you can go about your daily life without worrying with, but that embody an old-fashioned vibe and spirit, which I particularly like. I mean, these sorts of watches really appeal to me as an individual, as modern watches aren't really my thing. Now, the first watch is the Squale 50 Atmos. Now, this watch has, for a long time, I've liked this watch very much from the images I've seen on the internet. But just recently, a friend of mine has actually purchased one, and having held it in the hand, I really can't say anything comes near to it in terms of quality and especially its price point. It's very weighty as far as the watch goes, and shares that case that was used on some Blancpain 50 Fathoms, which really is an interesting heritage aspect, which I didn't know until a little while ago. Equally, it has a very old-fashioned look on the dial, with lots of writing, and all the indices are painted on rather than being applied. Especially on this tanned leather, an unlined tanned leather strap, the whole watch could be worn quite nicely with a polo shirt and some chinos, and I can just see it being worn on the coast of the Mediterranean. It's that sort of summery watch, especially in that blue guise. The bezel of this watch is a 60-click unidirectional bezel, and I must say it feels very good. It's very firm in the hand, but there's very little play on it as well. The bezel is also coin-edged, which makes for a really nice design cue. Now, the insert is painted, but I do know that these are available from Squale, as various people have said on various forums. Now, this watch is also available in a polished version, which adds to that old-fashioned look, although I probably wouldn't choose one of these because scratches are more prevalent, really, on a fully polished case. It is also available in black, as you can see in the photograph, although I don't think this has as much charm as the blue. It doesn't really grab your eye as much as the blue. Inside this watch is an ETA 2824, which, though not the most prestigious movement, is easy to repair and well known by most watchmakers. Now, it should also be noted that this watch can also be used for professional diving, because it is water resistant to 500 meters below sea level, which is a really nice feature considering the heritage that Squale have in the dive watch field. Now, I particularly like this next watch because I think it's really different. Now, this is the Oris Diver 65, and more specifically the new 42mm version. Now, the original was 40mm and had a very busy dial, although I rather liked it because it had a very 70s vibe to it. Now, this new one is more sedate, and I think could take on a slightly more military air. And is available with this beautiful blue dial, which glistens in the light. Now, it is a dive watch, although it is only water resistant to 100 meters. That said, knowing Oris, it will be water resistant to those full 100 meters, and not simply a byword for saying light swimming. Now, this watch does actually take its design cues from an older Oris watch, although that watch was a lot smaller. And this watch has a unidirectional bezel, which is painted as well, but due to that heavily domed crystal and the sheer narrowness of the insert on the bezel, the insert is unlikely to get damaged rapidly, so I wouldn't really worry about that. The case of this watch is 316L stainless steel, which is the regular type of steel used, and the top of the lugs are brushed and the sides are polished, so that's very much the sort of status quo of case finishing on a dive watch, and I think that's perfectly fine because the polished sides give a slightly more sophisticated look, with the brushed tops protecting the watch from scratches. Now, due to the size of this watch and the fact that it's extremely thin, means that I think it could probably be worn formally as well as a sports watch. For what this watch is, I think it's rather costly at around £1,500 to the Squale's 700, because it has a very similar movement, the Sellita SW200. That said, though, I think there's very little on the market that can rival the build quality of an Oris. along with the individual aspects that this watch offers, which I think are unrivaled in the market. This next watch is the Handheart Pioneer, and this is a chronograph by one of the best-known chronograph brands in the business. Handheart has been producing chronographs since the beginning of the 20th century, and was known during the war as producing some of the best aviation chronographs there were. Now, this is the Handheart Pioneer, which is a bicompax chronograph that harks back to the heyday of aviation, with a very old school dial. Now, the dial is available in a standard bicompax aviation chronograph design, or it's available with red markings showing the particular indicators that we used for telling how far away a gun battery was, by figuring out the time it took for the shell to land. White and black dial versions are available, and I think I like both, frankly. It just depends on what strap you'd be wearing it on, or with what clothing. Now, the biggest difference in the range is there's a mono control version and a dual pusher one. The difference between the two is that the mono pusher version is historically accurate to certain watches they made, which it's rare to see a single pusher chronograph, which means that the button will start the chronograph, stop the chronograph, and reset it. But I think in day-to-day practical use, the two pushers will be more useful. Although I think as a novelty item, I'd like to have the single pusher. On the mono control, the bezel is available in this fluted design, or as a flat version. Though I think to go with the hands, the fluted version really would be the right one to buy. Inside this watch beats a modified ETA Valjoux 7753, which is a well-tested and trusted movement that's then been adjusted by Handheart to their specifications. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, because that's the only way a small channel like this can grow. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This is Arm on the Watch Guy, over and out.